RotoGrinders, welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderHD, BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And it's Tuesday, February 13th. And you know what we do on Tuesdays? It's a big slate in the NHL tonight. So we'll be taking a look at that. And since we got NHL, we got Tim BUELL here. So hit that thumbs up button for Tim. Tim here in the morning. Give me those thummy thumbs. Give me the likey likes for Tim, right? Do you I'm assuming you don't like being called Timmy, right? You like Timothy, but not
Tim.
Timmy.
Just Tim.
Just Tim.
Yeah.
Right. You're not in line with the shenanigans here in the morning just to get the likey likes. You gotta wave. You gotta wave. Come on, wave those thumbs. Come on.
I'm not good at peddling. I'm not good at peddling for likes, Blender. I really struggle with that.
Right. Well, that's what you have to get. You have to work on. That's the skills you need to work on. Right. You need to work on getting the subscribes, getting the notification bell hit, right? Getting more people to watch, because that's the name of the game here on YouTube. It's free content, for crying out loud, right? You can subscribe to the RotoGrinders premium stuff. Tim. Let me give you a little hint on Tim. Tim cares more about the premium people than you free people out on YouTube. That's why he doesn't care about the
That's not true. I was just gonna say hi to Rob B on YouTube that says Timmy Big Game Timmy Jim.
We like the freebie people. That's fine. But if you don't want to be a freebie person, click that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Get our NHL projections, ownership, our premium content, props and pick'em package. It's all the NHL stuff is literally all I use. I know I'm a professional. I tend to subscribe everywhere. I use as much as I can. But for NHL, it's RotoGrinders. I mean, I literally look at nothing else. I've been having a pretty good NHL season, especially in the DFS streets. Props has been up and down. Props is higher variance. Like, you go through stretches where it's like, oh, nothing loses. And then the games go completely the opposite way that they should. And it's like you have a day where it's like, oh, I just lost 82% of my NHL prop bets because, this team just didn't show up today. But that's the way it goes. But I'm still profitable on that end. But we have a big slate today, and there are a lot. To me, I think, I don't know about you. I mean, I've obviously just looked at this for like 20 minutes. I think it's a bit wide open, especially when it comes to ceiling. I think there'll be some chalky kind of like value teams, and it's one of the teams that Tim, Montreal chalk is just like these teams that like when Washington and Montreal and Seattle. I mean, Seattle's not chalky, but like the teams that aren't good but are just underpriced for their like power play units. Never make me feel good, because you look at this, you look at Cole Caulfield, and you go, do I really want to play a 20% on Cole Caulfield? And then you don't, and he scores 32 fantasy points. And then you play him, and the Canadians score like one goal on the third line and lose 4-1. And you're sitting there going, why the hell did I play into 20% own Montreal on 11, 12 game slate? But I think on the high end, the expensive stacks, the high team total teams, I think they're. I mean, do you think it's Toronto? I mean, I think Toronto is one, but are they necessarily like clearly the best team to target on the slate?
I don't know if they're necessarily clearly the best team to target on the slate. I would say that they're going to garner probably the most ownership between. I mean, we got to talk about Jake McCabe because that's going to bring down the cost of that power play one stack. But yeah, I would say Austin Matthews will be the highest owned stud. I would say that Jake McCabe is going to be probably the highest owned value play. So there you go. You got a lot of
clue people in on why Jake McCabe, $3,600 defender, is probably going to be, especially even if you're not playing Toronto as a stack, there may be a lot of Jake McCabe one-off defenders at 3,600. I mean, obviously, I don't play NHL DFS every day, right? So typically Tuesdays and Thursdays. The thing that stands out to me is that what happened to Riley?
Yeah, so Morgan Riley, he's got a player suspension meeting today. I'm assuming he will be suspended. I'm pretty much guaranteed due to his late hit on Ridley Gregg, I think, on the Senators in the last game. You may have seen it on some highlights or on Sports Center. Kind of a dirty play. He should be suspended for at least a couple games. So that's going to launch McCabe into that power play one spot on this lethal power play, and he's 3,600. So no Morgan Riley. So that opens up some really good value with Jake McCabe.
So do we have a clear notion that he will be playing, on the power play, or is this that we're suspecting that?
I think we have a clear notion that he will be on the PP1.
Okay. And
Yep.
I'm assuming he's essentially playing point. Or, he's playing as right.
Yes.
Typically,
Yeah.
From my
Yeah.
NHL knowledge, typically, the when you see the only defender on a unit, they're typically the ones that are like quarterbacking the power play.
Yeah. He's going to be on the second even strength pairing, and he should be on the top power play line running the point.
So you have Toronto there. The thing about Toronto, as opposed to a team we'll talk about next, is that Toronto could go out and score 5 goals, and there's a lot of people here. Their first two lines are both good, right? So you got Austin Matthews on one with Marner, and then Matthew Nyes or Knees. I don't know. Remember me with the pronunciations. I don't know.
I believe it's Nyes.
And then you got line 2 with Tavares, Nylander, and Bertuzzi, right? Obviously, Nyes and Bertuzzi are on the power play 2 units of their team. And McCabe, obviously, in the second defensive pairing. That isn't a big deal. The defensemen come in and out, regardless of the offensive line that's out there. What would be if you were to play a 3 or a 3-man, the issue I have always is that, playing Matthews and Nylander together, like, expensive, and they're only together on the power play, but not at even strength. My inclination, especially playing the smaller field stuff, is that when in doubt, I want players that are on as on the ice together as often as possible, right? And as much as possible, right? Time on ice and together in both facets of the game. So I'm much more likely to play like Marner, Matthews, McCabe, or Nylander, Tavares, McCabe than play these combinations of like Matthews and Nylander or Matthews and Tavares. Obviously, the Leafs could come out and score 7 goals and like everyone eats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that can happen. I'm just not a big fan of spending 9,800 on Matthews and 8,400 on Nylander together when at even strength they're never going to be correlated with each other.
True. I definitely get what you're saying. I just, I really like John Tavares in this matchup. And he's only $100 more than Marner. But I get what you're saying. You do want to get even strength correlation also. So I have absolutely no issue if people want to go Matthews, Marner, and McCabe. That's going to be a very, very popular trio. I would like to see what projected ownership is going to be amongst those 4 players of Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander. I also wouldn't mind getting some exposure to Toronto too, and then adding in McCabe. So go Tavares, Nylander, and then go McCabe, because I'm sure that will bring down your aggregate ownership quite a bit, just fading Matthews. That would be for large field GPPs only, not necessarily like in the 222 that you'll be playing, or like the 400 that I'll be playing in.
Right. And just also be aware with Austin Matthews that you could play Toronto without Austin Matthews. And that doesn't necessarily mean, I think people have this notion that if you don't play a guy, they have to do bad. Like, oh, if I play someone else, right? I don't want to play Toronto if I'm not going to play Austin Matthews. They're like, well, how do you play line 2 and not have Matt? Well, what happens if Matthews scores a goal on the power play? It's like, you're talking about 10 points. He's a $9,800 player. If Austin
Right.
Matthews scores less than 20 fantasy points, you don't need him. You could have found look how large the slate is. You could have found those points else. I mean, if Matthews scores 46 fantasy points, yeah, you're going to need him, right? But he's a $9,800 player. So don't be hesitant on, playing Toronto without Matthews and going, well, if they score in the power play, wouldn't Matthews have a goal or an assist or something? Like, you could easily survive. Like, Nylander could have 36 fantasy points. Matthews has 20. You'll need Nylander, but you won't need Matthews. I mean, you won't need. Now, is he useful? Sure. In the small field contest, even 20 from Matthews, you could win a GPP with that. But it's not like unfadable types of things, right? So I'm up for Toronto, but they are going to be chalky. But the types of teams that I like I take a look at a team like where are we going? Like Edmonton, like much more condensed, right? There's another team that I'm looking at also. So like, I still think Hyman is overpriced at 8K, right?
Yep.
But of course, his ownership is going to be lower. But I'm always a big fan of the one-off Draisaitl's, and playing like playing an Ekholm, Nugent Hopkins, Connor McDavid. Like, you have to think that Connor McDavid's ownership is going to be much lower today because of Austin Matthews up there. And I mean, if we take a look just even at our projections, like, we still got McKinnon on the slate, right? You still got Jack Hughes, Kucherov, I think Pasternak. I think Boston will see some ownership. I don't think McDavid is going to. I mean, I don't think McDavid is going to be low owned, but
I
I mean,
actually think he's going to be the second highest owned stud. I think actually, I think it's going to be McKinnon that gets the low ownership.
Only because he's a little bit more expensive because he's 10K.
Yeah. So I think it's gonna go Matthews. I think it's gonna go McDavid. I think Draisaitl is gonna get some ownership also. And then it's gonna go Pasternak, and then Kucherov is going to go very low owned because he's got a very, very tough matchup in Boston. So I think it's actually going to be Connor McDavid's going to be the second highest owned of the studs, with Austin Matthews being the highest owned. That's just my opinion. We'll see what Moneyball 16 puts out for ownership, but I think it's going to be clearly Austin Matthews. And then, don't forget about Jack Hughes, also 9K. I mean, he's an all world player who might get a lot of guys are going to get lost on this slate. There's no question about that. So, and I haven't even said David Pasternak yet. 9,700. Boston has a pretty solid team total. He's, I think, the third highest projected player right now. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to get very much ownership either. So it is going to be very difficult. And I think I just want to say one thing. Even in a small field tournament, like you said, you could win a GPP getting 20 at Austin Matthews. I think today, given how big this slate is, I don't think that's true. Some days I would agree with that statement, but given the firepower and just the overall size of this slate, you're really going to have to hit the nuts with the rest of your team to win a GPP with 20 at Austin Matthews.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you have all the pieces, if Marner scores, I mean, you could have situations where Bertuzzi has 2 goals, Nylander has 5 points, right? I mean, like, it's still that because you have like 4 or 5 Toronto pieces. Like, it's still possible.
It's
right?
possible. Yeah. I would like that theory though on a smaller slate without all of these like really, really high powered studs.
Okay. I need to ask you about this team because I'm a little surprised at how low they project. The biggest favorite on the slate is Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, like these projections on like their power play one guys, I mean, like Lindholm. I think Lindholm, Bozer, Miller, Peterson. I mean, Quinn Hughes is up to 7K. Maybe he's a bit overpriced, but I expected these guys because Chicago. I mean, isn't Chicago one of the teams that like, oh, they're playing Chicago? Let's take whatever team plays them because they don't have that great of a they don't have much an NHL quality lineup. Have they done things with the time on ice where it's like they spread out their lines a little bit too much? It's just that I expected like someone like Bozer or Miller to have much higher. I mean, they're I still think they're a little bit overpriced, but for their ceilings, it just feels weird that Bozer has a projection that is like less than some like $4,500 defenders.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, you're 100% correct that Chicago is an absolutely atrocious team. But lately, what they've been doing is just playing keep away. They've really been like slowing down the game and just trying to play like low scoring games against their opponents. And it hasn't been working in terms of the win column, but I mean, it has been working somewhat well in terms of their goals against. So that's one thing that I would be kind of just aware of, is that they're not really trying to play like high paced because they can't do it. They can't keep up with other teams. So they're just trying to play kind of like a slower keep away style of hockey. Now, does Vancouver have a ceiling on its slate? Absolutely. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that Vancouver can't break this slate completely. They're just very expensive, and I'm just a little bit hesitant going there on such a large slate.
So, what other teams on the high end? You're talking about favored teams, maybe expensive high team totals. Are you looking at? I mean, we mentioned McKinnon, Colorado, and that's a team that it's fairly condensed, right? It's expensive, but
Oh
you
yeah.
kind of know who
Oh
to
yeah.
play there.
Yep. So I want to talk about Nashville.
Oh,
New
okay.
Jersey,
Okay.
yeah, New Jersey's on a back-to-back. Nashville's small favorites. Nashville has a 3.42 total, which is pretty good on this slate. They have two extremely cheap members of their team that are on the power play one, Cody Glass and Tyson Barrie. That Cody Glass is like 2.8, I think, and Tyson Barrie is 3.1. Last I look at projections, Tyson Barrie is our number one points per dollar play on the slate. You can fit that Nashville full power play stack pretty easily. So you can go Glass, O'Reilly, Yossi, Barrie, and Forsberg pretty easily. And I think even if you just wanted to go like Forsberg, Yossi, Barrie, or something like that, even just play three of them, I think that's a very, very, very condensed team. We generally know where the production is coming from with Nashville. They're not the best team in the world, and Yossi's only 7,300 too. So for a guy who has plays as many minutes as he does in this matchup where they're actually favored at home, I really like him. I think he's viable in cash or in large field GPPs. But I think Nashville is definitely a team that you need to be getting exposure to in your portfolio.
Can you explain to me, as someone that admittedly doesn't really watch hockey,
Mm-hmm.
I rarely see the two defenders on a power play unit.
Right.
Is there a difference? Because I mean I have the base understanding of how teams set up with a point guy. There's the guy that basically is in front of the net that tries to like deflect shots in, like, and then there's
Yep.
like the guys on the side that take the shots. Like they have positions on the power play that
Yep.
with I'm assuming Yossi is like the point guy. So like, what does Barrie do on the power play? Like, because the thing is, I don't know if this is just stupid to do. I just think in these terms of, especially in small field tournaments, I try to come up with like heuristics of who do I like playing as one-offs, who do I not like playing as one-offs. So it's very similar to baseball, where like typically a one-off that you play in baseball heuristically is a guy that could hit a home run, that it doesn't rely on other people. You're gonna play Nicky Lopez at second base, like the dude has like 4 home runs in his career. Like he needs to get a lot of points from like being on base, being hit in, being like, so typically if he does well, everyone else does well. So either use him in a stack or don't use him as a one-off. So I tend in hockey, and you tell me if this is logical or not, that I prefer playing one-offs of like the shot takers, right? The guys that like that the guys that get the pass on the one time, not the guys that like control the puck, right? Because they're probably not scoring points by assisting to other people. It's like when they score points, they either score like they have 2 shots, 0 goals, 2 shots, 1 goal, 2 shots, 2 goals, and they really don't block shots. They really don't do anything else. That those are good one-off pieces. And the guys that could end up with like 3 block shots and 4 assists, like those are the guys I need to have the rest of the line, because in order for them to do well, like everyone does well. So I look here at Nashville and go, like Barry as a one-off, if he's not the point guy, like is much more appealing to me than McCabe playing the point for Toronto, because McCabe, like Toronto could spread out. Like let's say the Toronto power play has 3 goals. It's possible that McCabe has 3 assists and they're all to 3 different goal scorers. That the line did okay, but McCabe's sitting there with 26 fantasy points and actually is better than all the other power play guys. I want to in Nashville, I rarely see this like 2 defenders on a power play unit. So can you maybe explain how Nashville sets up like that from a hockey perspective? And if I'm looking way too much into like who would I want to play as a chalk one-off and not one-off, and do these positions on these power play units matter?
I think you're a little bit overvaluing the positions on the power play just a little bit. I would definitely say, given your criteria for a one-off, like who's going to get me the one-timer goal or like the shot bonus and put goals in the net, that would be Philip Forsberg for sure. I would not play Tyson Barrie as a one-off. He is definitely going to be a guy that's going to be dependent on getting an assist or 2 on the power play, hopefully. I don't think he's going to have like the shot volume to get you the shot bonus. He's not a high peripherals guy, so he's probably not going to get you the block bonus. So if you're looking for a one-off out of this group, I would say it's definitely Forsberg, and then the next option would be Roman Josi, because he's just an absolute monster. He plays a ton of minutes. He does everything. So Josi probably has the best floor between he and Forsberg, whereas Forsberg probably has the higher ceiling.
So let's go into more of the value side of things on this slate. Obviously, let's talk about the chalk value, and that's Montreal.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the lead. That was the lead of like, I mean, the thing about Montreal is like they're not a good team. They are favored against Anaheim. And with how, they shipped off Monahan, they've moved some people around where they're much more condensed in a way that, like Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkowski, play the power play one as well as even strength together. Like it fits my criteria of like, if I choose to play teams, I like playing teams where everyone that I'm playing is always playing together. You can even throw in a Matheson into there. I mean,
Alex,
obviously
and
Newhook is on the power play, but he's on the third line.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at their projections, I mean, Slafkowski is probably the best point per dollar, wing position player at 3,600. But he's one of those people I don't like playing as like he fits my description of the guy that I would normally play as the one-off, but he's also going to be chalk. I mean, like,
Yeah, I wouldn't play him as
do
a
you
one-off.
do you buy into chalk Montreal? I mean, at these prices, it's hard to ignore them as a favorite against Anaheim.
It's very hard. I ran 200 optimals before we hopped on the show, and the very first top optimal has 4 Montreal players in it, and I was like, great, another Montreal slate with Blender. So it's tough. I really hate playing chalk Montreal. This is a really good matchup though. So if there's a spot to do it, it'd probably be this one. And I think there are different ways that you can play Montreal. Like, you don't have to play Slavkovsky. You could just go Caulfield and Suzuki. Forget the value guys. Play like the mid-range guys and build like a more balanced build of a roster. I think that's a different way of going about it. So yeah, it's tough to know. And I'm hoping that ownership doesn't necessarily condense on Montreal too heavily, just because we do have other value pieces and it's such a large slate. So hopefully things don't get out of hand. I think we'd have to talk about the Ottawa Columbus game, because that's another game with 2 really bad defenses, and there are some really, really cheap pieces on with that game too. So I think they are worthy of discussion as pivots.
Okay, we can
away
move on
from,
to there, but I also wanted to highlight that Montreal ain't that good either. I'm not opposed to playing Anaheim.
Oh yeah, I'm not
Anaheim
either.
is pretty cheap also. I mean, Henrique and Carlson, like, all their guys are. I mean, yeah, Vetrano is 6,100, but he actually projects decently well, even at 6,100. I'm much more inclined to play the power play one guys, right, or line one or something like that, or even like a Terry or a McTavish or something. I mean, they're okay, but I mean, Montreal's, their penalty kill ain't great. I mean, and this game could turn into a 5-4 game, but it's also Montreal. It could also turn into a 1-1 game.
Right. Yeah.
So you wanted to talk about Columbus and Ottawa. The cheap goalkeeper du jour, I think, of value on the slate is Tarasov. I think people play Tarasov, people play Saros if you're going up a little bit more, or Sorokin for the Islanders. So talk to me about this. One thing that stood out is that I wanted to play Ottawa. Ottawa's one of those teams. Ottawa, to use a DFS trope, Ottawa's one of those teams that I never get right? I don't like these teams where no one seems to correlate with, like, everyone that I want to play don't correlate with each other enough. Like, I want to be able to play, like, imagine playing Pinto, Giroux, Norris, Kachuk. It's like on even strength, they're on 3 different lines, even though they're on the power play. And it's just like I love playing guys that play even strength together on top of being in the power play one unit, because it gives you more opportunities to bail yourself out, because it's like, oh, well, I mean, I could score. You could get 3 points on 1 goal, as opposed to needing, like, this guy to do well on that line and that guy to do well on that line. And hopefully the power play goes to those 3 people. So tell me a bit about what you would do with Ottawa.
So I think that Josh Norris is the best value on the entire slate. He's, I would say, at least $1,000 too cheap. I'm surprised that he's not projected a little bit better. I mean, he is projected very well, which I'm happy to see. But yeah, he's going to play top line minutes. He's going to get first power play run. I would love to pair him with Kachuk. They're going to play a ton of minutes together. I would pair them with Shabbat, most likely, a defenseman for Ottawa. You could go the full line 1 stack and just go Kachuk, Norris, Batherson, but I prefer going with Shabbat. I really like picking on Columbus. I also like picking on Ottawa. So, it's definitely, goals allowed per game. Columbus is second worst, and Ottawa is third worst. So I mean, these defenses are absolutely terrible. So if you can get value pieces from this game like Josh Norris, I'm not going to hesitate to click it. So I normally I don't like to save at center. Like usually that's a position where I want to double pay up. I like to save at the wing or at defenseman. But I think given this price and this matchup, Norris is going to be one of my very first clicks on my single entry team tonight.
Tell me a bit about Bobquist, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Anytime
anytime I see a cheap defender, 3,300 on a power play one, I need to look at that. I mean, compared to McCabe, compare him to McCabe and Barry. I mean, I think we could both agree that if you had to choose one in a vacuum, you'd take McCabe, no question.
Right. No question.
As a one-off, like, I mean, who's playing Columbus today? Like, it feels like I'm not, even if Columbus does well, like if Bovquest does well, I mean, they're not going to be owned. In small field stuff, I feel like if he does well, I don't really care who he does well with.
Yeah, so I would assume that not many people are going to go to Columbus, despite the fact that I think their prices are pretty decent given their matchup. I would much rather play McCabe and or Barry over Boquist. Boquist really is dependent on that power play doing well and him being part of the scoring. He doesn't really do much else in terms of shot volume or blocks. So his floor is not as strong as a guy like McCabe. You have to keep in mind that Zach Werenski is the alpha on that power play, and so Werenski is 6,200, and he is going to be the one most likely controlling the puck the most. I mean, I guess he's fine. I guess Buckos is fine. He's definitely going to be more contrarian than someone like Barry or McCabe. But I mean, it's tough. Like I'd rather play, Johnny Gaudreau, who is extremely cheap at 4,200. I'd rather play Zach Werenski, who's 6,200. I just think they're in this. I think this game has a lot of real shootout potential, and I think you can get some really strong pieces at extremely low prices. And I don't think they're going to be very chalky.
No, I don't see people playing. I think the highest owned player from Columbus is going to be Tarasov.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to be 10% owned. I'm just saying I'm not sure if any player on Columbus is going to be double-digit owned on this size of a slate at all.
Right.
And Dane in the chat says that he's going to look at Ottawa's power play one, that maybe he's going to be bumping up their minutes because they've been playing more lately. Any other teams on the slate that you're looking at? We've bounced around a bunch. I mean, we kind of missed. I mean, do you think that if you had to cross up a game to play at their prices or whatever, the least appealing game for the prices, maybe the Carolina-Dallas game?
Carolina-Dallas would be a very good candidate. I would say, I looked at this total earlier and I see this Boston-Tampa Bay total. And I see Boston with a 3.42 total. And obviously, I always want to listen to Vegas, right? They know more than I do. I was just surprised to see it that high. Don't really like the spot for either team that much. Pasternak and Kucherov are extremely expensive. Do they have ceilings? Always. But two guys that I would not consider playing, even if I was making, say, 30 teams, not really a game that I'm that interested in. The Islanders, I think, are pretty expensive. I got to go back and check. But
I did well with the last slate that I played, Tim. I think what was it last Thursday? I did very well that slate when they scored like God knows. I think they scored 7 goals or something. I played Dobson and Horvat and Barzal and Palmier. I played the power play and they did great. Apparently, yeah, they bumped up their prices now. That they're a little bit less appealing, but
I was gonna say I'm not paying $7K for Horvat. I'm not paying 72 for Dobson. I'm not paying 6.6 for Barzal in this matchup.
I think you could. I think you could play Barzal as a one. I mean, I think a contrarious one-off play. Barzal is fine.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other like really, really juicy spot. I do agree with you. Carolina Dallas would be a cross off for me. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Detroit in some optimals, which I don't really like that much. But yeah, I guess there's a couple value pieces for Detroit, but they're kind of too expensive for this matchup, in my opinion.
And then you also have, I mean, I think the one game we didn't even touch, the only game we haven't touched on in any sense is Buffalo, Los Angeles. I mean, this one looked kind of, I can see playing one-off pieces. I mean, I'm always fine playing someone like Fiala as a one-off, like those types of guys. Kemp is a one-off. Then you look at the Buffalo side. Like Tage Thompson is 6,500. I mean, I never have a problem doing that, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean he's fine.
Right, we're I'm playing Dahlin at the defender spot at 6,800. Like, okay, he's there, he's fine. He could get you 15, 20 points. But
I think I always like I like Dahlin quite a bit. Owen Power is out, so he might even get even more minutes and possibly even more power play time. I'm not sure, but really, really bad matchup. But yes, Dahlin under 7K, I think that's pretty interesting.
Okie doke, and you could always go to our RotoGrinders premium content. We have the stack values page, right? With that I always show here. With maybe not today, but it always gets updated. Like as we've been on the show, Tim.
Yep.
Dane has updated the projections twice while we've been on the show. That's how often these things getting taken care of. And he's already it's already posted. And Artem Zub is may not be playing tonight. And if he can't play, the Senators will be short a skater and go with 5 defensemen.
Oh, interesting.
What is that? What does that mean? Does that mean that like guys like Chicharin and Chabot like may play like 30 minutes?
Yep. That's exactly what it means.
You know where I found this news? Tim, Claire Hanna reported this news, but Tim, I don't need a Twitter list for this because
you do not.
You guys in the Discord, I'm not joking here. It is literally the best Discord channel I've ever seen in DFS.
Oh, I appreciate that. I think it's pretty awesome.
So anything else on Ottawa now that you see, does that affect? I mean, obviously projections will get updated and stuff like that, and Dane will take care of that. But but does that make? I really
like Chabot, and I already said that I really like Norris, but that I think Shabbat's going to play an absolute ton now.
That's if he can't play. The coach said that he suffered a lower body injury against Toronto. If he can't play tonight, the Sens will be short a skater and go with 5 defensemen. So what time is that game?
I think it's at 7.
Okay, so that
we'll
know that.
Yeah,
I mean, would you get on the skate around or whatever the early like? I mean, if he's like not on the ice for practice, you could kind of probably.
Not unless you hear it from the coach during the presser. I wouldn't base it completely off of morning skate. So if he's not on the ice during morning skate, that doesn't mean he's necessarily out. They usually have a press conference sometime in the afternoon where sometimes the coach will say so-and-so is out. They don't always do that, though. Injury reporting in hockey is a little bit different than in other sports. But if he's not on the ice during pregame warmups, then he's out. and they're going to have to go a man short. I already like Shabbat quite a bit. I'd like him even more now if Zuber to sit.
Okay, no. Well, you could get all of Tim's information and content in obviously the NHL Discord channel and our premium content here. We'll have a slate summary. We'll have the expert survey. Click on the link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. I know NFL is over, but we still got it. We got NBA. We got NHL, right? We got MMA. I know we'll have the NBA All-Star break and stuff like that. Well, MLB will be back soon. We got college basketball, March Madness. We got NASCAR. We got PGA. We got everything you'll possibly need here at RotoGrinders. Tim, are you going to be on? Are you doing NBA later today? Crunch Time, Grinders Live.
I'll be on. Yeah, I'll be on Crunch Time with Keith Eister and Roth.
You know what your job is. I want to give you a specific assignment just for tonight, just for you to try it out. And it's not to call yourself Timmy. Like, do at least one thing, just one thing during your analysis to whore for the likes. Do some type of either wag your thumb. You could do the waggy thumbs, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. You could do whatever. Just think of something where I mean, look, TJ does the Spidey stuff with the I can't give you the Spidey bombs, which is I mean, I'm just reading the home run projections until you hit the like button 50 times. So at least he has his thing going on there. He has his way. I do the wacky stuff, right? You have to find maybe some cerebral way of getting more likes on these videos.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that, Blender.
It's not a KPI of our no one does in our performance review of like, well, your likes are down, Tim. We may need to let you go. There's no incentive.
I only do it when I host a show. That's the only time I'll do it.
When's the last time you've hosted a show?
I've hosted 3 shows. They haven't asked me to do it again. So
people don't let you're not a boisterous personality.
I'm not host material.
Right. I'm truthfully, I'm a horrible host also.
That's not true.
No, I'm good at filling time. I'm just a horrible host.
I don't agree with that.
Because like I talk too much. Typically hosts aren't supposed to talk that much. See, Kevin Roth, he's a good host, right?
He's very good.
He just throws up his hands and goes, I just do the weather radar. You tell me about the sport, right?
Right.
Dean has he could talk about stuff, but he has no problem facilitating. Even Chop, he facilitates me. It's just like, come on, it's like, hey, it's my show, and I just happen to have some other guy here also. And if he wants to contribute, that's fine. But if he doesn't, I could just talk over him, right? That's not a good host. I'm awful. I'm very good at getting the likes, though. I'm very good at getting the subscriptions. That's my skill. Everything else. You're
a good like peddler.
I'm a good it make the show a little bit more lively and entertaining, and add some insight. But a lot of times, I'm starting the show and going, oh, here's the thing that you could have said, but I said it and then just said, do you agree with me? Instead of just letting you say it. That's awful hosting. Because I'm supposed to see, if I was Dean, Tim, just to think meta here, if I was Dean, I would have went over the slate and then would have been like, so, Tim, what lines are we looking at today in NHL or whatever? And you'd go, well, Montreal, you never like playing like, dude, I come across and I go, you know what? We're probably playing Toronto and Montreal. Tim, what do you think? And and you're like, well, I could have said that also. I mean, like, maybe as the host, you should have just let me say it. Right?
Right.
See, that's what a good host would do. And I just never do that. I can't help it but just blurt out what I think before you do.
No, I mean, I think you do a great job hosting, and Dean and Luch, right? I think Luch is a good host too. Yeah. We got some good hosts.
Mochi does ask, is McCabe still a good play, even though the Blues take the third fewest penalties in the league?
He's too cheap. I was just.
See, this is what I did. See, I did it, Tim. I did it, Tim. I answered the question. I asked you, and I said he's too cheap before you could say he's too cheap. I'm an awful host.
Yeah, I mean he's so cheap, and I don't think he necessarily has to like crush on the power play to get value for you. Obviously, you want him to crush on the power play, but I think it's a really strong spot regardless. And not every game the Blues play is against Toronto, so they're going to take penalties against Toronto. I'd be willing to bet. So it's I still think he's a very strong play.
The Toronto has like the highest team, the implied team total on the slate, right? One of, right?
Oh yeah, definitely one of the highest. I think
Right.
Ottawa
Okay.
has I think Ottawa has the highest.
Okay. Right. Let that guide you. Okie doke. Let's get out of here. Tomorrow I got Will on. Will or TJ. I got someone on. I forgot. But don't do NBA tomorrow. NBA tomorrow. Thursday. A mix of NHL and NBA, I guess. Friday. There's no NBA, but we'll still be doing MMA. Squirrel Patrol will be on. We have a UFC 298. So look forward to that. Obviously, subscribe to RotoGrinders. Get all the tools here, especially if you're playing NHL tonight. Right, go take a test drive out. I think we offer like 5-day, 3-day trials, 7-day trials. I have no idea. We have some type of trial. It's on the link in the description, so click on that. And if you don't want to do that, if you're too cheap, if you want to be some of the freebie people, at least hit the thumbs up button. I want you to feel guilty about not subscribing to RotoGrinders Premium and give us something that costs nothing, which is a thummy thumb. And hit that notification bell to always know when we go live on the channel. Because I'm here. I'm here for you guys. Every weekday at 11 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders today.